Welcome, Sens Talk.
Russell winds in, feeds it back across the strike, and scores! Brady Tkachuk makes it 2-0. Paul Giroux, hit alone, scores!
Tim Stutzock cross, Tkachuk score! The captain, Brady Tkachuk, buries it with 1:18 to go.
See you later. Go, Sens, go. Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon Planton. I'm your host. Today, Ottawa took on the Minnesota Wild in game number 2 of the National Hockey League's Global Series in Stockholm, Sweden. Speaking of Sweden, we have a Swede versus Swede matchup in net today between the two teams. For the Minnesota Wild, it's former Ottawa Senator goaltender Filip Gustavsson, a former top prospect for Ottawa, who's actually been struggling this year. Last year, after being traded to Minnesota from Ottawa for Cam Talbot, he blossomed, had the second best save percentage of the National Hockey League, only behind Linus Ullmark last year. This year, however, has been struggling, a below 900 save percentage and above 3+ goals against average. He's only won one of his last 7 starts. Still a young goaltender with a lot of promise, but he absolutely has been struggling this year, no doubt about it. And for Ottawa, it's Anton Forsberg, who's also been struggling this year. Hasn't looked the greatest the last couple of starts. He hasn't won since October 18th. So he's looking to bounce back in a big way there with a lot of friends and family in the stands. So you already know Anton Forsberg's going to play a hell of a game. But it's always cool to see little things like that. Like I remember when Craig Anderson was, celebrated October 24th against Buffalo. The Senators had both goaltenders come to do the ceremonial puck drop. I just like little things like that. So seeing two Swedes in Sweden facing off against one another is really, really cool. Now, continuing on with the game, Ottawa would ice the same lineup as last game. And a couple of things in terms of that lineup. Firstly, Jakob Chychrun playing in game number 400. Congratulations to Chicky. And Erik Brannstrom, the Sweden native, playing in game number 200. You'll be hearing that name a lot in this video, so stay tuned for that. But congratulations to Brannstrom and Chychrun. Big accomplishments, of course. Also, going back to the team, Ottawa's looking to win 3 in a row and go above 500 for the first time since October 25th, nearly a month ago. 3.5 weeks ago or so. So 3 weeks ago, pardon me, to be exact. So Ottawa is looking to get above 500 as they head back home after this one. So with that, let's get to the game recap. That's enough rambling from me. We go to the first period of play, 20 minutes in. It's 0-0 between Ottawa and Minnesota. The shots were 10-10 apiece. A fairly even period. Early on, though, Forsberg had to make a bulk of those 10 stops. He made 6 or 7 of those in the first 10 minutes. Minnesota really came out flying, which shouldn't be shocking. They've had a few days off since arriving in Stockholm, so they came out fiery. Forsberg made some big stops, and Ottawa had 2 power play opportunities in that period, squandered both of them against the league's worst penalty kill, which we'll talk about in the post-game thoughts. But we go to the second period of play, and this is a big period for Ottawa. Not because it's tied and you want Ottawa to take the lead or anything, but it's because Ottawa is looking to stop the bleed in the second period. The Sens have allowed the most goals against in the National Hockey League in the second period of play. So Ottawa is looking to stop that trend. Unfortunately, though, for the Ottawa Senators, it doesn't start off great in the second period of play. 4 minutes in, a weird shot off the backboard, bounces over to Forsberg in the net. Brannstrom clears it out, thankfully, so no goal there, but he put his hand over the puck in the crease. That's a penalty. It's an automatic penalty shot, and Marcus Johansson would get the opportunity, but he was stopped by Anton Forsberg. So luckily for the Senators, they get a break there as Forsberg makes a big stop early on the penalty shot opportunity. But unfortunately, 2 minutes later, the Wild would capitalize regardless as Brock Faber takes a slap shot from the top of the blue line. He lets one rip. It's tipped out front by Marco Rossi, the former Ottawa 67, and the Minnesota Wild strike first. It's 1-0. Now, the Wild, like I already kind of alluded to when talking about Filip Gustavsson, have been struggling mightily. Their last game was an 8-3 loss to the Dallas Stars. And by the way, they've only scored the first goal in the game 3 times this year. This is the 3rd time they've done so in 13 games. And Ottawa, by the way, is 1-4-0 when giving up the first goal. So right away, that's something that doesn't happen quite often for Minnesota. They get it done. Things looking good for them. Things looking bleak for Ottawa as they've only won 1 out of 5 when allowing the first goal. As we go into the third period of play, down by a goal, Ottawa again squandered 2 power plays in that second period of play. And, look, Filip Gustavsson was standing on his head at this point. Wasn't forced to make a lot of saves. It was 17, 18 saves by the end of the 40 minutes going into the third period of play. But, at the same time, he obviously had to make a few good stops. We saw that patented glove from Filip Gustavsson as well. But we go to the third period play where Ottawa, like I already kind of mentioned, they're 1-4-0 when allowing the first goal. and it gets worse from there. When going into the third period down by a goal, Ottawa is 0-6-0 when trailing after 40 minutes of play. So when they're down by a goal and they're trailing, they have not won a game yet. They have not come back to win. So that is a big, big thing that they need to change here if they want to win this game, of course. And for Minnesota, like I mentioned, this is a team that's been struggling. I got to be honest. They have a lot of good players. They are very much so struggling. They are only 2-0-0 and leading after 40 minutes of play. They don't have that opportunity often. They're looking to make that 3-0-0. We go to the third period of play, and 4 minutes in, Ottawa Senators are here, and they are here to make some noise. 4 minutes in, Anton Forsberg gets the puck after Travis Hamonic has a blocked shot that goes all the way the other way back into Ottawa's zone. Anton Forsberg with an unreal saucer feed from zone to zone finds fellow Swede Erik Brannstrom, who has an odd man rush, no one to beat. He fires a slap shot past Filip Gustafsson, the other Swede, and in. How sweet it is! Erik Brannstrom ties the game at 1 on an unreal snipe. Blocker side past Filip Gustafsson. Ottawa ties it less than 5 minutes in to the third period of play. And what a great Swedish connection there from Forsberg to Brannstrom to the back of the net past the Swedish goaltender. Ottawa ties it at 1-1. What an unreal pass by Anton Forsberg with a lot of family and friends in the crowd to Erik Brannstrom with a lot of friends and family in the crowd. I love little things like that. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I absolutely love it. What a moment there for Erik Brannstrom. His first goal of the year as well, and his 50th NHL point. Congratulations to him. Speaking of NHL points, that was Anton Forsberg's second career NHL point, his second career NHL assist, of course. He has yet to score a goal. Hopefully one day he will. But Ottawa ties it 1-1. And after that, not much going on. Ottawa wouldn't get a power play. Minnesota would get a 1 or 2 power plays, especially late. Drake Batherson took a late penalty. He took 2 penalties in this game, which we'll talk about in the post-game thoughts. Luckily, though, Ottawa would kill the penalty, and we're going to overtime for the second straight game. After not going to overtime for the first 12 or so games of the year, Ottawa's now gone overtime back-to-back games. Obviously, we all remember that Tim Stützle walk-off home run overtime GWG on Thursday against Detroit. So Ottawa, of course, has won 0-0 in overtime this year, and the Minnesota Wild are 0-1. We go to the overtime period, and Ian Mendes, you can see on your screen here, is of course in Stockholm, Sweden, at Avicii Arena, and he mentioned that fans on both sides were literally booing. That was a very boring overtime period. Nothing really happened. Wild got a few good opportunities that Forsberg was forced to stop. And the Sens got a few opportunities. Odd man rushes going the other way, but they really fumbled it. It looked like the ice wasn't great by the end of the overtime period. So that overtime period was kind of skewed. I don't know if the teams were just, standing back, playing defensive. Both teams definitely had their opportunities, but the puck was really choppy. I wonder if the ice had anything to do with that. But we go to the shootout, and the first 4 shooters for both teams are stopped. In round number 3, it's the Noof, Josh Norris, roofing it past Filip Gustafsson to give Ottawa the 1-0 lead in the shootout. In the third round, it's all up to Joel Eriksson-Ek to go and score to force it to round number 4. He goes in on Forsberg, stopped. Ottawa wins. They take down the Minnesota Wild 2-1, and they escaped Sweden with 4 out of 4 total points. A nice little comeback win there for your Ottawa Senators. For the first time this year, when trailing after 40 minutes of play, they come back and win it 2-1 in the shootout over the Minnesota Wild. A massive win for your Ottawa Senators, who are now, for the first time since October 25th, over 500. They are 8-7-0 now. They are now, of course, only 2 points out of the final wildcard spot, with 2 games in hand right now. But remember, the Sens don't play for nearly a week, so they probably will have 3, 4, maybe even 5 games in hand by that point next week against the Islanders. So Ottawa's in a great position here. They swept the Global Series, and now they are on a 3-game winning streak. And, look, Ottawa's back in the race here. No one can write them out. This is a team that has fought their way back into the conversation with 3 straight wins. Obviously, having these big breaks in between the 2 games is going to be weird. It's happened multiple times already this year. Ottawa's had such a weird schedule. But look, they're back above 500. They've won their last 3 games. They're only 2 points out of the playoffs. I mean, you can't ask for much more from a team like this who's dealt with injuries and frankly hasn't played as good as they could. So 3 straight wins is massive. 8-7-0 is even more massive, being above 500. And once again, you're going to have multiple games in hand going into that game on Friday. So they have a really good opportunity here to run the table, pick up some points, even more so than they already have, and really get a leg up on some of those teams they're chasing right now. Remember, Ottawa literally plays like 15 or so times in 30 days or whatever, in 31 days or whatever, pardon me, in December. So Ottawa literally plays a game every 2 days. So a lot of games coming up, but if they can continue, of course, to play like this and build off this great stretch of hockey, things are looking bright for the Ottawa Senators, especially as they get healthier and healthier throughout the lineup. Now let's talk about some other things in the post-game thoughts. As I kind of already alluded to, Drake Batherson, 2 penalties today, very undisciplined. Both were, of course, in the back check. Just defensive errors like that from Drake Batherson are coming far too commonplace, and he needs a wake-up call. You know, offensively today, I thought he looked great. He was buzzing. The last 2 games, he's looked very good offensively. But defensively, this is a guy that, I wouldn't say he's a veteran, but he's not a rookie either. He's been in the National Hockey League for nearly 5-6 years now. This is a guy that needs to know better. That penalty, especially late in the third period of play, I don't care if the boards around the ice are low. You have to be far more disciplined than that. And 2 penalties from Drake Batherson, both, of course, occurring in our defensive zone. Just can't have it. So Drake Batherson, I don't know if you need to bench the guy. I understand why you wouldn't, because he's so good offensively and brings a lot to this team. But defensively, he needs a wake-up call, because he's been disastrous over the last few years, and it's really starting to catch up to him, and it's becoming very, very noticeable. Now, Ottawa's power play today, it's very rare that Ottawa wins the game without scoring a power play goal, but that happened today. They went 0 for 4 against the league's worst penalty kill, the Minnesota Wild, which have like a 63% percentage on the penalty kills. So they're worse in the National Hockey League. It's shocking Ottawa didn't score, but luckily they didn't have to. But, I just wanted to mention that, because if we would have lost this game, it would have been purely because of the power plays. You had 2 in the first, 2 in the second. So, you have to score on one of those in such a tight game when they're basically giving you the game and when they have a penalty kill that's so rough. Luckily, though, for Ottawa, it worked out because Anton Forsberg was fantastic as he made 24 or 25 stops, including 2 in the shootout, or 3, I guess, in the shootout. Yeah, I guess, 1 hit the post, but 2 were stopped by him. 3, I guess, total technically. But Forsberg was fantastic in front of friends and family on his home soil of Sweden. A great bounce-back effort there for Forsberg, who hasn't won in basically a month since October 18th. It's his second win of the year as well. So he needed that. It's a statement game for Anton Forsberg, who, once again, it wasn't the craziest game, but some of the chances Minnesota got were very high danger, and he was forced to make some big stops. So he looked good. Big bounce-back game there for Anton Forsberg, who can absolutely build off that after a bit of a rough stretch. Now, as I already mentioned, the next Sens game is in about a week. This Friday, November 24th, against the New York Islanders at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's see if Ottawa can take down the Islanders in Ottawa on Friday. But yeah, besides that, I'll probably see you in the next few days. We're going to do something fun with the Everyday Sens guys to recap this whole Sweden trip and more. So stay tuned for that in the next few days. But besides that, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below as usual. I'll be responding as usual as well. And besides that, I'll see you all soon. Go Sens, go.